It's rare for a rookie contract to feel like a statement. But for Shedeur Sanders, this was personal. Coming from a family where football isn't just a sport but a legacy, Sanders signed an extension that turns that legacy into leverage. And he did it right as Kevin Stefanski was pushed out in Cleveland, a calculated moment that allowed him to negotiate from strength. The deal, reportedly including rights to his name, image, and likeness, along with revenue sharing, signals something deeper. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. A young athlete refusing to be just another name on a jersey. For Sanders, it's not about ego, it's about ownership. In an era where influence matters as much as stats, Sanders is carving out a role that goes far beyond the field. This contract marks a shift toward full athlete agency, a model where players no longer operate under blanket league policies, but under their own terms. What Sanders just did could easily become the starting point for how future rookies negotiate not only their worth, but their identity. The NFL will have no choice but to adapt or be left behind. The timing could not have been more chaotic. Minutes after Kevin Stefanski's departure from the Cleveland Browns was officially confirmed, Shedeur Sanders signed his contract extension. That sentence alone sent shockwaves through the NFL. A fifth-round pick not only secured an extension, but one with terms that completely defied the NFL's traditional structure. And he did it right as the coaching seat went cold. This wasn't a last-minute deal or a loyalty move. It was calculated. Shedeur knew exactly what he was doing. The deal didn't just secure his future. It marked a seismic shift in how players are navigating their careers. And it happened in the middle of franchise instability. Kevin Stefanski's exit was a moment everyone knew the Browns were entering a reset. His coaching tenure had already been scrutinized for underperformance, and the team's inconsistency gave ownership a reason to make a change. But what no one expected was for Shedeur Sanders to step up, not just as a player, but as a strategic brand operator, right after Stefanski was out. People inside the building were still unpacking the coaching change when the Sanders deal was made public. It was a stark contrast. One man was out, his role dissolved. Another was stepping into a different kind of power, not just on the field, but behind the scenes. For a fifth-round quarterback to negotiate terms that grant him image rights and a slice of the revenue pie is unprecedented. This wasn't a max contract or some incentive-loaded performance deal. This was brand control, ownership over his likeness, a literal cut of the money made using his name, face, and presence. No one's ever done that in the NFL on a rookie extension. It's the kind of thing that would have been laughed out of the room just a few seasons ago. Yet here it was, approved, signed, and timed to perfection. What made this deal even more disruptive was that it didn't come from a seasoned veteran or a franchise icon. Shedeur Sanders isn't the face of the league, at least not in the traditional sense. But that's the point. He doesn't need to be. His brand power already rivals established stars, and it's because of what he brings off the field. This extension wasn't about on-field dominance. It was about business leverage, about a player who understands the ecosystem beyond touchdowns and stats. Shedeur knows that merchandise, endorsements, and media visibility are the real game, and he played it better than most quarterbacks in the league ever will. Before this extension, Shedeur had already established himself as a unique presence in the league. His family legacy helped open doors, but it was his own calculated moves that got him here. He wasn't waiting to be handed a franchise. He was building one around himself. While most rookies are hoping to lock in second contracts by playing safe, Sanders was using his influence to reshape what a contract could even be. And it worked. His match highlights weren't the only thing trending. His business plays were making just as much noise. Within the Browns organization, this created a quiet storm. The team had just lost its head coach. Morale was uncertain, and then their rookie QB flipped the script. The extension, with its revolutionary clauses, forced ownership and management to confront a reality they weren't ready for. They weren't just dealing with a player. They were dealing with a brand. The ripple effect was immediate. Internally, discussions began around how future contracts would be structured. Could they allow this again? Should they? The Browns had unintentionally become the first test case in a new kind of NFL power structure. Front offices around the league were watching. No GM wants to lose control of their ability to profit from a player's likeness. That's foundational to the NFL's revenue model. But now there was a precedent. If Shedeur could pull it off, what's stopping the next wave of players from demanding the same? It was clear this wasn't a one-off. This was the start of a bigger negotiation between league control and player autonomy. What Shedeur did forced uncomfortable questions into the spotlight. How much power should a player really have? The truth is, Shedeur Sanders represents a new archetype, not just an athlete, but an operator. He's part quarterback, part CEO. His media deals, merchandise sales, and off-field presence are all part of a broader strategy. He's not just trying to succeed in the NFL. He's using the NFL to succeed. That distinction matters, because it means future contract talks will be about more than performance metrics. They'll be about media rights, personal branding, and how much revenue a player is entitled to generate independently. And let's not ignore how deliberate the timing was. Stefanski's exit created a power vacuum, a leadership gap. That's when Sanders locked in his deal. It wasn't accidental. It was a message. One leader steps out, another one steps in, but this time on very different terms. Sanders is signaling that he's not just filling a roster spot. He's defining the role on his own terms. And the Browns are, at least for now, backing it. That move could define how front offices interact with their stars moving forward. For Kevin Stefanski, this might be a footnote. His departure is now part of a bigger story, one where a rookie quarterback rewrote the rules the moment the coach walked out. That's not something you see often. Usually, change happens quietly over time. But this was a spotlight moment. The Browns have walked into a new era without fully realizing it. Whether they're ready or not, the control they once had over player branding is slipping. The question now is whether they'll evolve with it or resist until the model breaks entirely. This move isn't just a new chapter for Sanders. It's an entirely new playbook for the NFL. When a fifth-round pick suddenly holds this much leverage, it sends a very clear message. Draft position isn't the only metric of value anymore. Influence matters. Branding matters. Your business acumen can be just as powerful as your arm. On the field, Shedeur's still developing. He's not lighting up the fences every week. But it doesn't matter. His contract tells the league that his value isn't solely tied to Sunday stats. He's banking on his name, his reach, and the marketability he brings. And now the Browns are, too. And let's be honest, the Browns are desperate for a win in every sense. After years of shaky leadership, inconsistent QB play, and public criticism, they needed something or someone to anchor their future. By backing Sanders, they're placing a bet not just on talent, but on transformation. But this bet comes with baggage, because now other players are watching. Agents are taking notes. Teams across the league are quietly panicking. If Sanders' contract stands, the floodgates had opened. No one's ready for rookies with media empires demanding revenue splits. What makes this such a high-stakes moment is how clearly Shedeur Sanders understands the landscape. This isn't an accidental power grab. It's a blueprint. He studied the playbooks of athletes like LeBron James, who turned their careers into billion-dollar enterprises. Shedeur's not mimicking that path. He's applied it to football, a sport that's never allowed this kind of freedom. And while some execs may call it disruptive, Sanders would probably call it overdue. For decades, the league has capitalized on players' images while tightly restricting how those players could profit from them. That's what he's challenging. The tone of his press conference made it even more clear. He's not rattled, not defensive, not asking for permission. He's calm, measured, professional, as if to say, of course this is happening, like it was always part of the plan. He didn't frame it as rebellion. He framed it as evolution, a natural step forward. And that kind of framing makes it even harder for the league to fight back without looking like they're clinging to an outdated model. Cleveland, for all its instability, just became ground zero for a league-wide power shift. The Browns have often been the subject of mockery, a team stuck in rebuild purgatory. But now, they're at the center of the athlete empowerment era, whether they meant to be or not. And it's ironic, Because for a franchise known for not having a clear identity, they've now tied themselves to one of the most brand-savvy young players in the league. It's not just a roster move. It's a rebranding effort, led by a player instead of a PR department. Kevin Stefanski's name will now always be part of this story, not because of what he did, but because of what happened right after he left. His departure made space for Sanders' moment. The team went from traditional leadership to player-led business acumen in the blink of an eye. It raises questions about what leadership even means in the modern NFL. Is it a coach drawing up plays? Or is it a quarterback shaping the narrative, driving brand growth, and negotiating contracts that reshape the system? That's the part that makes league executives uncomfortable. Not that Shedeur is a good deal, but that he might be redefining success in ways the league can't contain. If a fifth-rounder can do this, what happens when a top-5 pick tries it next? What happens when it becomes the norm? It's not about ego. It's about structure, and the structure is cracking. Sanders has made it clear. He's not interested in waiting his turn. He's not here to just follow the rules. He's here to negotiate them. And the reaction has been split. Some players are cheering him on, seeing in his deal a new path forward. Some execs are quietly furious, worried about the legal ramifications. And the league? They're already looking at policy tweaks, loopholes, ways to make sure this doesn't become the standard. But the problem is, it might already be too late. The moment the ink dried on Sanders' deal, a precedent was set. Future rookies won't just ask for it. They'll expect it. And teams that don't offer it, they risk losing talent to those who will. That puts the Browns in a complicated position. They've backed Sanders for now. But what happens if this becomes too big, too fast? What happens when the league starts pushing back and the front office gets caught between two systems? One old, one new. If the Browns try to walk it back, they'll look weak. If they double down, they might alienate the league. It's a tightrope walk, but there's no turning around now. They've handed the reins, in part, to a player, and that player knows exactly what he's doing. The irony in all of this is that Kevin Stefanski, a coach once praised for bringing stability, became the symbol of the old guard. He was steady, predictable, a system guy, and now, post-exit, his system is being rewritten by someone barely out of college. That shift is hard to ignore. It's not just about personnel anymore. It's about who gets to shape the culture. Stefanski coached players. Sanders is building infrastructure. The contrast couldn't be sharper. For Shedeur Sanders, this isn't a side project. It's the main event. Everything about his career path has pointed to this kind of move, leveraging legacy, media savvy, and a modern understanding of branding. He's not reacting to trends. He's setting them. He's taken lessons from the nil revolution in college and translated them to the NFL stage. While others are still negotiating for bonus structures, Shedeur is out here negotiating for ownership over his name, his content, and the dollars they generate. To older figures in the NFL, that's borderline blasphemy. Coaches like Kevin Stefanski came up in a system where the franchise dictated everything: schemes, messaging, even player personalities. There wasn't room for individuality beyond a carefully managed PR front. So when that system collapses, as it just did in Cleveland, it's not just about wins and losses. It's about losing control. And in Shedeur's world, control isn't something he waits to be given. It's something he takes, signs, and files under contractual obligations. What really makes this moment stand out is how clear Shedeur is about the future. He's not asking the league to catch up. He's saying it already has, whether they acknowledge it or not. The NFL is in an era where athletes double as entrepreneurs. And Sanders didn't just embrace that reality. He turned it into policy. During his press conference, he didn't gloat. He clarified. The clauses in his deal weren't extreme to him. They were necessary. A baseline. And that's what makes it powerful. He's not approaching this like a trendsetter. He's approaching it like it's normal now. That's how paradigms shift. The Browns, as a franchise, are suddenly the guinea pig for this new model. Not because they wanted to be, but because they didn't stop it. Or maybe because they saw no other option. With their reputation in limbo and no long-term quarterback solution in place, Locking in Shedeur with a deal like this was both a risk and a relief. They needed someone to build around, and now they have him. But they also have something else, a player whose influence extends far beyond the locker room. That's never been the Browns' identity. Until you can already see it shifting in the way fans interact with the team. It's no longer just about game day. Sanders' brand brings in digital content, merchandise, behind-the-scenes access, and fan engagement that feels more like a media company than a football team. It's one thing to cheer for a player. It's another thing to buy into their brand, their voice, their vision. That's what Shedeur's offering, and that's what the Browns are cashing in on, whether they know it or not. And now, around the league, everything's under review. Teams are revisiting their rookie clauses. Legal teams are scrambling to find out how much image control can realistically be withheld. The NFLPA is watching closely, too, because if this kind of deal becomes common, it changes the structure of rookie negotiations completely. It's not about stopping the next Shedeur Sanders. It's about preparing for a world where every draft class includes 5 more. The Browns were just the first to break. The question is, who's next? There's no denying the influence Deion Sanders had on Shedeur's strategy. Growing up watching his father treat football like a brand, on and off the field, clearly shaped his understanding of power. But Shedeur's approach isn't just copying the past. It's an evolution. He's navigating a different ecosystem. Social media, direct-to-fan engagement, monetized platforms. It's not just about showing up to play. It's about owning the footage, licensing the quotes, and controlling how you're framed when the headlines drop. This new model turns traditional gatekeepers into optional middlemen. Teams used to own everything. The storylines, the footage, the legacy. But Shedeur's contract says otherwise. His likeness, his revenue share, that's his. And if the team wants a benefit, they have to partner with him, not just sign him. In one deal, he's turned a franchise-player relationship into a business-to-business relationship. Equal footing, mutual benefit. That's not how the NFL usually works. And that's why the tremors are being felt everywhere. Kevin Stefanski never had to deal with this kind of dynamic. His post-game interviews were about injuries and game plans, not nil-style branding deals or contract clauses about social media rights. It's not his fault he couldn't keep up, but it does highlight the generational gap in leadership philosophy. One side of the league is still focused on playbooks and culture. The other side is negotiating brand partnerships and streaming rights. Shedeur Sanders just made that divide unmissable. As the league starts to reckon with what this means long-term, you can expect resistance, policy shifts, legal challenges, backroom conversations between owners who see their marketing control slipping. Because this isn't just about player empowerment. It's about revenue redistribution. If players get a cut of branding profits, that's less for the franchises. If image control moves to the athlete, the league loses narrative power. These are foundational concerns for the people who run the NFL for decades. For players coming into the league now, this is the future they're walking into, one where athletes don't just perform, they own. Shedeur Sanders drew a line in the turf and said, "This is what I'm worth, not because of where I was drafted, but because of what I bring outside the stadium." And he got it. That's going to be hard to walk back. The league can't pretend this didn't happen. And more importantly, players now know it's possible. Every agent, every rookie, every college star watching the draft with a media team already on payroll. This is the green light. Shedeur didn't need to be loud. He let the paperwork speak. His press conference didn't need theatrics because the message was already clear. This wasn't about breaking rules. It was about rewriting them. And he did it with the calm confidence of someone who knows this is just the beginning. He talked about responsibility, about growth, about using his platform the right way, which only makes this more difficult for the league to push back on. This isn't a reckless power grab. It's methodical, and that's why it's so effective. The Browns, for once, didn't fumble the moment. That alone might be historic. They saw a chance to align with a rising brand, and they took it, even if it meant giving up some control they're used to. It's risky, but it's also modern. And whether they meant to or not, they've positioned themselves as early adopters in a player-first era. Other teams will scoff. Some will panic. But others will follow. Because in the long run, teams that embrace this shift will attract the best talent. Players want freedom. They want control. They want to be treated like the businesses they are. It's hard to say what this means for the Browns on the field. There's no guarantee that player empowerment translates to playoff wins. But this move gives them something they've lacked for years: an identity. A quarterback with vision. A face of the franchise who's playing chess, while others are still arguing over the rulebook. If Sanders performs even moderately well, this contract becomes a gold standard. And if he blows up, it becomes historic. Either way, the Browns have set a tone, and the league can't ignore it. So now the spotlight is on. Every throw, every game, every press clip will be measured not just against expectations, but against the contract that changed everything. That's pressure. But Sanders seems ready for it. He's not just showing up to play football. He's building a blueprint. And if you're watching this unfold in real time, you're witnessing a shift, not just in the NFL, but in the way athletes think, negotiate, and lead. This isn't about hype. It's about ownership. And for the first time in a long time, the league might not be the one holding the pen. If this saga blew your mind, hit that like button. Drop your take in the comments. Are we heading into a new player-led era, or is this going to backfire on the Browns? And if you want more deep dives into the drama, the deals, and the meltdown shaking up the sport world, make sure you're subscribed. This is just the beginning.